Good evening, everyone. Richard here. Thank you for joining us tonight for tonight's webinar, Understanding Your Place in a Digital Landscape. There's people still joining, so I'm just going to give it a half a minute or so just to allow more people to join, and then we're going to make a start.
And good evening, everyone, from me as well. Looking forward to sharing some knowledge with you this evening.
Okay, excellent. Right, let's get going. So first of all, just to run through to make sure that you do get the most from this webinar tonight. A couple of things. First of all, please do turn off your phone, or at least put it onto silent mode. Try and remove any distractions from the room. Do participate and ask lots of questions. I think we've got 3 Q&A sessions as we go through tonight, so just write those questions down together with any notes, and we'll come to them in due course. And also, it's a really good idea just to schedule some time for maybe in a week or so to replay we'll let you have a copy of the recording of this webinar, so in a week or so you can just replay it, because you always take more in the second time round. So before we start, a little introduction to myself. So my name is Richard Evans, and I am the person behind Awaken to Business and VaVaBoom, and also Smart Hospitality Solutions. I worked in the corporate sector for most of my life, most of my career, and I was responsible for delivering large projects worth millions of pounds to major corporations throughout the world, really. And so it was my responsibility to head the project up and head up the delivery team that actually had to implement the project delivery. So I spent my career building teams and managing large projects and liaising with other parts of the project professional team. In 2017, I decided that I had achieved what I wanted to achieve in my corporate career, and I decided that I wanted to leave that and focus full-time on my property business. I've been a property investor since the mid-90s, and I thought, right, I'm going to really focus on this and build my property business and grow it further. So at that time, I took on my first virtual assistant from the Philippines, and I had my virtual assistant doing all of the operational tasks within my property business, leaving me to focus on the things that only I could do. A lot of people were coming to me and they were saying to me that you know, it was amazing the way I had systemized my business, and I had this virtual assistant halfway around the world that was doing all this work for me. And people asked me if I could help them systemize their business and show them how I had done it. So at first I was saying, no, I'm a property investor, but there was clearly such a need for helping people do this and learn about software and process and recruiting VAs, that in 2018, I formed Awaken to Business. And at Awaken to Business, that's exactly what we did. I was providing mentoring to people, showing them what software to use, teaching about process, and recruiting a virtual assistant for them from the Philippines. That became so popular that it really became quite apparent that what I needed to do was to scale up that business, and I couldn't really just be doing this mentoring on my own. So I had to find a way to improve what I was doing and scale that business. So 2019, last year, I formed VaVaBoom. And with VaVaBoom, that is, there's lots of moving parts to the business, but that really helps people. We have a lot of clients now, largely property people. We are quite niche, but not exclusively property people. So we show people how to systemize the business, give them all the tools they need, and then we give them a VA that is trained in using the software and running the process. Earlier this year, I formed another new division called Smart Hospitality Solutions. This is a 24/7 call answering service for the hospitality sector. And that is really to allow people that are running serviced accommodation or hospitality businesses to allow them not to be bothered with phone calls at 9 o'clock at night. We actually take those calls for them. We hold information and details on their properties so we can actually answer queries from guests, etc. Timing of that one wasn't really good because obviously we had the whole COVID thing came along, which really hit the hospitality sector. But now, of course, things are getting back on their feet. So it's looking very good now. And now I'm going to introduce you now to Ben Reynolds, who's a good friend and business partner of mine. He does a lot of the work, branding work and websites, etc., media work for myself, for my own businesses. So Ben, over to you.
Thank you, Richard, and good evening, all you lovely people. So I'll be taking you through the content of tonight's webinar. But before I do that, I'm just going to go through a quick introduction to myself. So I started at probably the most famous agency in the world, Saatchi & Saatchi, a long time ago, back in the 90s, as a communication strategist, and worked for about 15 years in big agencies. After Saatchi's, I went on to Mediacom, which is actually a much bigger, better agency than Saatchi's, and then Starcom, which was probably at the time the pinnacle of all of the agencies in terms of strategy. And during my time then, I worked on household names, basically. I've put some of the brands at the bottom here, the brands that I worked on. So I did all kinds of stuff from sponsoring Friends for Jacobs Creek. I came up with the strategy for Wednesday Your Dormio Day, which was probably the one I'm most famous for. And then worked on some other brands, mainly focusing on food and finance brands, but worked on lots of other things as well. So when it came to starting my own business back in 2007, I started Reynolds, which was a chain of coffee shops. Originally, it was a food outlet. So based on my experience working with finance and food brands, I thought it would be a good idea to put those two experiences together and make a profitable food retail business. As it turns out, after about 3 months, I realized that the coffee was more profitable than the food. So I changed the focus onto coffee shops. And over about 5 years, I built that into a small chain in the West End. We had about 28 staff. We had three sites, and we're turning over a couple of £1 million a year. During my time there, I worked with Westminster, which is where I was based. And we looked at how I could help other small businesses and startups to get going. So I did that, and I helped them with their business planning, and I helped startups naming their companies, getting their messaging together, and also the initial round of marketing for them as well. And as part of that role for Westminster, they gave me a very strange title of Ambassador for Entrepreneurship for the City of Westminster. So I really kind of got into small business then. So when I did sell my coffee shop business in 2012, I exited and was looking at what to do next. And really, I wanted to be part of the small business community. So I set up with a guy I worked with at Mediacom, a small marketing agency called MC2 Marketing. And that really was taking everything that Ian and I had done for big brands and then applying it to small businesses. So we called that big brand thinking for small business. So everything that we did on companies like Barclays and Findus and Cadbury's, the principles are the same. So we would then apply them to small businesses to help them grow. Now, the thing that's exciting about that is that when you work on a big brand, say you work on Barclays, for example, you make very little difference to what their business is doing. Whereas when you work in a small business, you can make a huge difference. So today we're going to be going through a few different things. We're talking about the digital landscape. So first of all, I'll touch on what a digital landscape actually means. And then I'm going to go on and talk about all of the areas that are encompassed within a digital landscape. I'm going to talk about understanding your audience. So this is a very important thing. You need to know who it is you're talking to, and you need to know who your competition are as well, so your enemy. So they're not called campaigns for no reason. A campaign is a military term, and you're in battle with your competitors. So if you want to win this battle and you want to win this war, you need to know your enemy and you need to know exactly how to beat them. I'll then talk about why you need a strategy. Again, that's another phrase from military. Strategy is how you go about achieving what your goals are. I'll then talk about how you can amplify your message. So specifically today, we're talking about online, and we'll be talking about social media and about how your messaging on social media can be more than just a few words. You can make it more engaging. You can get more shares by being a bit clever about what you do. I'll then go on to talk about monitoring your performance. So whatever you do in business, you should always look at how well you're performing. So not just in marketing, but in all aspects. You should look at what your targets are and how they compare to how you actually perform. So what is a digital landscape? So most people obviously would think that a digital landscape means websites, but to be honest, there is more to it than that. It also includes the type of devices that you use, so PC, Mac, tablet, smartphones. These devices are all used in slightly different ways. So a PC and a Mac, when it's a desktop, it tends to be used for more serious things. So for example, if your company is a car insurance company, that's kind of quite a serious thing. You would tend to go onto a laptop or a Mac or a desktop to do that serious work. Whereas if it's a bit fluffier, then you're more likely to use a tablet. So if your business is selling home furniture or cushions or something like that, and that tends to be used on tablets. So it'll be somebody sitting on the sofa at home in the evening, just browsing on a tablet. So understanding what type of customer you have and what type of business you have will affect what type of device they're likely to use. And then lastly, smartphones. So I think pretty much everyone's got a smartphone these days. You tend to use these for the less serious stuff. So if you're buying a CD, for example, and you know what you want, you're just going to buy it, you're on your phone, you order it from Amazon. So it's really quick and easy. So depending on what type of business you have will dictate which type of device your customers are likely to be using. So in the past, I've done different types of websites for different types of businesses. For example, I've used a PC-based website for an accountancy firm to advertise their services, and I've used a smartphone device website for a fencing company, which we'll come on to in a little while. Within the digital landscape, you also have to include email as well. So this is something that a lot of people poo-poo because they think of it as spam. But you can still use it properly, and if it's used sensibly, you can get really good results from email. Of course, there's social media, and we'll be talking about that quite a lot today. This is where a lot of people in the UK are spending their time at the moment, as well as globally, and people are spending about an hour and 50 minutes a day on social media. So it's an area where you can very easily market to people. Within the digital landscape, you should also include video, specifically YouTube. So a lot of brands now are using video, and it's not just big brands; it's small companies as well. You're able to target people through YouTube and video quite easily now. I'm not going to go over that a lot today because we don't have time. But within your competitive analysis, you should be looking at YouTube really to see what your competitors are doing. And lastly, e-tail. So e-tail is non-bricks and mortar, so it's retail online. So eBay, Amazon, Google Shopping, that kind of stuff. Plus retailing from your own site as well if you're a retailer. This is all part of your digital landscape. And so when you're looking at your own business and looking at your competitors, you should see where they're active, and particularly for your own business, if you're selling product, should you be on eBay? Should you be on Amazon? Should you be on Google Shopping? So this is a 5th century quote from a book called Zen and the Art of War. So as I said, marketing is very much like the military. and this is military leader giving advice about how to win battles. If you know both yourself and your enemy, you can win 100 battles without a single loss. So this applies to marketing in the same way that it applies to battles that are a little bit more violent. So you need to know who your customer is, who your audience is, who you're talking to. So the best place to start for that is to find out who your existing customers are. The easiest way of doing that, of course, is to ask them. So you can run, very easily, you can run questionnaires online, or you can ask for feedback from customers and find out who they are. You can do Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is a piece of software from Google, obviously, that fits onto the back of your website. What you can do with Google Analytics is see who is visiting your website. So that gives you a good indication of who your customers are likely to be. And I'll talk about Google Analytics a bit later. But it gives you an idea of where they are in the world, if they're male or female, what their age is, all kinds of information you can get from Google Analytics. And the people that are on your website are likely to be your customers. So that's a really good way of finding out who your customers are likely to be. It also helps you to find out what they do online. So through Google Analytics, you can find out if people that have visited your website use particular social media, and you can see what other websites they've visited as well. It also gives you socioeconomic demographics. So that is what type of person there are. So in most of marketing, the population is split into different types of person. So some people are wealthy, some are rural, some are urban, some are upmarket, other people are environmentally friendly. There's all different types of people. But when I say there's all different types, generally it's split into 52 different types. And those people are generally classed by their postcode. So people that are similar tend to live in a similar area. Through Google Analytics, you're able to find out what kind of socioeconomic demographics are using your website and which are most likely to be your customers. You can also understand their digital usage. So this can be done through questionnaires, asking customers, talking to customers in person, find out what they actually do online. Do they spend all their time on Facebook, or are they on LinkedIn, for example? And then this is a really important thing. Find out what motivates them. So every different group of people has different motivators. And what we would expect is that most of the people that are interested in a particular product or service would have fairly similar motivators. So once you find out what it is, you can then tell them. So a motivator could be something like, we're the cheapest, we're the fastest, we're the best quality, we deliver the quickest, anything like that can be a motivator. So finding out for your business what motivates your customers is a really key thing. One of the motivators I found that I didn't expect was for accountancy firms. So when I worked on big brands, I worked on a lot of finance companies, a lot of banks and insurance companies and things. And then moving to small companies, it tended to be more accountancy firms. And one of the reasons that people change accountants, one of the main reasons people choose accountants, is how quickly they've returned their phone calls. So a motivator for an accountancy firm might be, we promise to return your call within 2 hours. That would actually be a motivator for a lot of small business owners to switch accountants. And if you're not sure, just ask them. There's no reason why you can't talk to your customers and say to them, you know, why did you choose our product? Why did you choose our service? What is it about us that you like? Most people will tell you, assuming that they like you. And if they don't like you, having bought from you, that gives you just as much insight as if they do like you. So you can work out what you should be doing and what you should be saying. So Google Analytics is a wonderful tool for all the geeks out there like myself. It gives you loads of graphs and pie charts and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of data that we love in marketing. And it tells you who's using your website, and it's split by all kinds of things. The first one is by engagement. So there are people that are on your website, and there are people that are buying from your website, and there are people that are making inquiries on your website. There's lots of different ways that people engage, and finding out who does what when makes a big difference to understanding how you should run your marketing. It also tells you when people are on your website and when they're engaging with it. So what we find with most businesses is that there is a pattern. Excuse me. So particularly for day and time. So if you're an accountancy firm, as I've said before, you're going to see an increased activity on a Monday morning. So people have been, a business owner will be at the weekend saying, got to sort the money out. You know, we're not making enough profit, blah, blah, blah. I need to change accountants to make more money. So on Monday morning, that's the time when they're going to be looking for an accountancy firm. So then you know that you can ramp up your marketing activity on a Monday morning. Conversely, if you're selling CDs, Friday evening after the pub's closed is a really good time to be marketing, because people come home, they've had a few drinks, they've heard a track they like in the pub, and CD sales peak on a Friday at about 11:30 in the evening. So understanding that pattern can make quite a big difference. When I had not the website company, when I had the coffee shops, there were lots of patterns in that. So we had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We had first week of the month, second week, third week, fourth week of the month. We had January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, nothing. So once you understand the pattern of your business, you can then match your marketing activity to it. Google Analytics also shows you where they are geographically. So a lot of small businesses will be fairly local. But if you're a retailer, for example, or an e-tailer, it's possible that you could be selling internationally. Excuse me. There will be lots of anomalies within the data. So whatever you do, there's probably going to be quite a lot of people from India and Russia on your website. And those are people that are looking to sell you SEO services. So if you do get those anomalies, be aware that they're not necessarily customers. It can also tell you which device they use as well, which we've touched on before. It can give you their gender and their age group as well, which can be quite useful in terms of structuring a message. So if your audience are under 16, your messaging is going to be very different to an audience that's over 65. So once you've got all that data together, and you kind of get a picture of what these people are like, you can start building a pen portrait. So a pen portrait is a loose description of what your average customer might be like. So in the past, I have, for small companies, and for big companies, I've written a description, just like half a page, of what their average customer is like. So how old they are, where they shop, what kind of food they like, what media they consume, where they buy their clothes, all kinds of stuff like that, just to give you an idea of what that person is like. And then once you know that, you can start creating messaging, you can start creating marketing campaigns that are fit around that person. So moving on to the competition. Know your enemy. Zen and the Art of War. It's a great book to quote from. Anything that's 500 years old, I like to quote from. So to really understand your enemy, you need to define your closest competitive set. So you might have one competition, you might have 3 or 4 companies that are competing with you, or you might have hundreds. There could be, almost an infinite number. But you need to work out somehow of defining what your closest competitors are and then looking at what they do. And these can be direct and they can be indirect as well. So for example, if you are selling holidays, if you're a travel agent, you could look at direct competitors, which would be other travel agents, but you might also look at conservatory companies, because in January, a lot of families decide what they're going to do that year. And they might say, are we going to have a fantastic holiday to Florida, or are we going to have a conservatory? So sometimes you have to think a little bit more about how people make decisions and take into account indirect competition as well. So the first thing to do then is to go to the websites, have a look what they say, have a look what they offer, have a look what they think they're good at, so whether they're the fastest, cheapest, whatever, and have a look at how their website actually works. Then go on to their social media, so have a look at what their messaging is, how often they post, where they are, and start to get an idea, an overall picture of what their digital activity is. So that doesn't mean knowing exactly every single post that a competitor does, but it's a matter of knowing that they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they post once a week, they only talk about this particular subject. Get an idea of what you think they're doing and understand their digital landscape. So it's not about just understanding yours or your consumers, but understand where your competitors are as well. And then when you know where they are, you can differentiate yourself and make yourself kind of stand away from them and give your customers different reasons to believe in you rather than them. So when you're on a website, things you should be looking for. The first thing is, does the website say exactly what they do very, very quickly and very clearly? So the example I've got here is Norbury Fencing that I mentioned earlier. So this is a website I built a couple of years ago for a fencing company. They supply fencing products, posts, panels and the like, to the guys that actually install the fencing. So it says Norbury at the top, and then we provide quality fencing, decking and building material products. That's about as clear as you can make it, really. As it turns out, most people understand that. If it's not clear what you do, what tends to happen is, as a user, you're on Google, you search for something, you find it, you click onto a website, you look at it, you look blankly and you go, I don't really know what they do, and you go back to Google and find the next one. So you have about a second, less than a second probably, to clearly say what you do. So that's the first thing to do. Do your competitors do that? Then you need to work out what the website's objective is. So are they looking for inquiries? Are they looking for sign-ups? Are they looking for sales? Are they just looking for leads? What is it? What is their website for? And then have a look and see if they have a lead magnet. So a lead magnet is where you offer something for free, but in return, the consumer has to give something back. This is usually an email address. So it might be that you can access a PDF of advice, for example, but you have to give them your email address. They'll then send you the PDF by email. If they have that, then there's a good chance that they're using those emails for further marketing. So if you find one of your competitors has that, do sign up for it and see what they do. Likewise, if they have a newsletter and a sign up for a newsletter, do sign up for that as well. Find out what your competition are saying, find out how they position themselves, look at how professional their newsletters are, and just monitor on an ongoing basis what they're doing. And lastly, really you need to look at their CTA. So a CTA is a call to action. So that's a big signpost on a website telling you what to do next. So that will be on here, that would be that button there. Do they want you to make a phone call? Do they want you to email them? Do they want you to fill in a form, or do they want you to buy a product? Work out exactly what it is they do. And also, is the site responsive? Responsive is when a website works on different devices. So a good site should work on a desktop, a tablet and a mobile. However, for small businesses, sometimes they're designed specifically for one and not the others. So if you find a competitor only works on desktop and not mobile, based on how we know people use different devices, that tells us something about who they think they're trying to attract. And lastly, when you look at a competitor's website, do they do anything better than yours? Compare it to your website, benchmark, and see what they do. If other people are doing stuff better, should you try to improve your own website? Is it time to upgrade it or improve it or add additional functionality to get yourself as good as or better, preferably better than the competition? So once you've had a look at their website, that's kind of their shop window, then you need to start looking at their social media. So have a look and see what social media they're using, Facebook, for example, and start looking at what their messaging is. So look at where they are in terms of where they're posting, and then look at what they're saying. Try and get an idea of how active they are. So are these people posting every day? Are they posting once a week? They're posting fortnightly? That will give you an indication of how serious they are about it. But also it will give you an idea of perhaps how frequently you should be posting as well. So if all of your competition are posting daily, then you probably should be as well. If they're only posting once a week, then maybe you post every 5 days and start outposting them. Also look at how many different platforms they use. So are they just on one social media, or are they spread across 5 or 10, or how many? It makes a big difference. My advice normally would be focus on the ones that you think are going to get the best results. So spreading yourself too thin just means that you're not going to do a good job. So if you, as a small business, if you pick 2, 3 maybe different social medias, platforms, that would probably be enough. If you're trying to do 10, you're never going to keep on top of it. The next point to look at is their brand and tone of voice consistent? So do they communicate in the same way? So tone of voice is, for example, it can be, are they funny and jokey, and do they use slang? Or are they quite serious and authoritative and thought leaders? And is that consistent? So for most brands, I'll rephrase that, for most successful brands, they're very consistent in how they appear, and also their tone of voice is very consistent as well. If you're very serious in one post and a bit jokey in the next, people won't really understand what you're about. Do they use incentives or special offers? So lots of people on social media are running competitions and doing discounts and all kinds of stuff. It's worth looking at what your competition are doing, and assume that if they continue to do the same type of promotion or special offer, assume that that works. So then you might not copy their idea, but you might take inspiration from what they're doing and perhaps do something similar yourself. There are lots of competitor monitoring tools out there as well. So lots of pieces of software, Social Sprout, SEMrush, Flanks, there's loads of other ones. They are software tools that can monitor your competition, and they will pull every post off of social media so that you can get a really good idea of what they're doing. And understanding what your competition is doing is key to planning what you're going to do as well. So once you know what they're doing, you can then kind of backwards engineer their strategy. So work out what it is you think they're trying to do. How are they trying to position themselves? Who are they trying to talk to? What is it they're actually trying to achieve for their marketing plans? And from that, what do you think their business plans are as well? So are they looking to remain local? Do they want global domination? Are they moving into new markets? Stuff like that will help give you a really good insight into what people are doing. So that's kind of the first section, talking about websites and the like. Now it's a good idea if we have a quick Q&A session.
Okay, so if you do have any questions, then please just type them into the Q&A box, and I'm sure Ben will be happy to answer these. I've got one here from Helen. How many competitors would you recommend I analyze?
Okay, that's a good question. That depends entirely on your business and your sector. So if you're a very local business, you have 2 or 3 competitors. So in that case, I would just monitor them all. If you're a national e-tailer of clothing, for example, it's very difficult to monitor them all. So I would pick the ones that are closest to you. And I would probably say, maybe look at the ones that you think are closest and do maybe 4 or 5, probably no more than that. If you try to do 15 different competitors, you're never gonna get through all of the data and work out what it's about.
Okay, thank you. Another one here from James. Yeah. Can I add Google Analytics to an existing website?
Yes, you can. Yeah. So if you don't have Google Analytics on your current website, it's a very straightforward job for your developers to slot that in afterwards. It's not an issue for really any websites really. It's a simple, straightforward task, and the Google Analytics dashboard is very easy to use. So once it is set up, it won't take you long to learn how to use it, and your developer or your web agency will be able to teach you fairly quickly.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's it for now. If anybody's
Okay.
got any questions, quickly to type in before we move on to the next section.
So there's a comment from Mandy. What about in property? I'm not sure exactly what you mean about what about in property. I assume you mean other property companies. I would say if you are a property investor, I would look at regionally, so locally where you are. I'd look at other property companies and see what they're doing. So it depends what your property business is, but I would look at what other landlords are doing if you're a long-term landlord, or if it's rent to rent, I would look at what other rent to rent companies are doing, but just in the region where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I might be able to elaborate a little bit on that one actually, Mandy. So, obviously you've got the various different strategies such as serviced accommodation, HMOs, single lets, etc. Developments. I'm not sure actually, Mandy, and I probably should know exactly what your strategy is. In fact, you might want to type it into the chat or the Q&A. Yeah, look in your area, other people. So if it's serviced accommodation that you're doing, or if it's developments. Search in your area, other companies, other similar businesses that are doing that. As you probably know, I'm into serviced accommodation quite a lot, so I'm always looking to see what my competitors are doing, how they're marketing their rooms, who they're marketing to. Is their market a corporate market? Is it a leisure market, etc.
Okay, so you don't, at the moment, Mandy, you don't have a strategy at the moment. So I would suggest you have a look locally, whatever area you're looking to invest in. And I'd look at the different types of people that are already there, have a look at what activity they're doing, and that might give you an idea of what strategies work and what don't. So even though you don't have a specific business at the moment, if you look at what the competition or the potential competition are doing, you might find a sector that looks like it's ripe for investment.
At the end of this presentation, actually, Mandy, we're going to have a slide where you can book a call with me. If you want to book as a one-to-one Zoom call with me free of charge, I'd be more than happy to have a chat and see how I might be able to help you a bit more.
Okay, very good. Okay, so let's move on. If we can go to the next screen. So the bit that I really like, strategy. So we're going to talk about the importance of having a digital strategy. This goes for all parts of business, not just digital, but that's our subject today. So why do you need a digital marketing strategy? The analogy that I use for strategy is planning a journey. So as a business, you're really on a journey, and the most important thing you need to do on that journey is work out actually where you're going. So you need to plan where your destination is. So in terms of business, that would be setting some business objectives. So that might be number of customers. Lots of people say turnover. I would prefer to say profit. Or a certain amount of money that you're able to take out of the business. These would be really good objectives. That kind of filters down into what your marketing objectives are. So if you need to get X number of revenue to get X number of profit that you can take out of the business, then you're going to need X number of customers spending a particular amount of money. So then your marketing should work out how to get those customers and how to get that amount of money from them. So on your journey, your customers are kind of your passengers within your car, on your little car journey. So what do they want? Why are they along for the ride? What is it they want from your business? Work out what it is that motivates them and what's going to keep them happy. Lots of businesses that don't have a strategy really are just wandering around in the wilderness. So they're driving around in their car. They have no destination. They don't really know where they're going. they're clocking up the miles, they're doing some marketing, but they don't know what it's for. And so they never really reach their goals. So lots of small businesses that I work with don't have business objectives, don't have marketing objectives, but they're spending money on marketing. Quite regularly, I'll say to people, what's your marketing budget? And they say, well, we don't have one. And I say, okay, so do you have a website? And they say, yeah. I say, how much does that cost to run every year? Do you have any brochures? Yep, we have brochures. How much does that cost? Do you do any online activity? Yeah, we're on social all the time. We have an agency that posts for us constantly. And do you have any trade shows? Yeah, we attend 3 trade shows a year. And you add all this up, and they might be spending 100 grand on marketing, but they don't think they've got a budget. And because they don't think they've got a budget, they don't set any objectives. So understand the landscape, understand your competitors, and then you can move on and start making a plan for yourself. So we've talked about the competitors already. The next thing for you to do is to plan your route. So you know what the landscape is, you know what your passengers want from the ride, you know where you're going, you just have to work out how to get there. And the how to get there bit is the strategy. The next thing to do is to get your car ready. So make sure it's clean, fueled, good tyres, everything's all ready to go. In terms of business, that means your processes are in place, your website's up and running, your branding, your messaging, everything's set up before you start your marketing. So get all the basics right, the stuff we covered in the last webinar. Get all of that stuff right before you head off on your journey, which is your campaign. And then once you're off, just check you're on course regularly. So keep going back and saying, well, what's our objective? Are we heading in the right direction? Are we getting there? Is this the right route? And just keep checking constantly, because you might find out that you're heading for Manchester, but actually there's a really good festival in Liverpool and you're almost there anyway. So you might as well go that way. And it's the same in business. Things change, your objectives change sometimes. You don't worry about that. But without having a destination, you're really not going to go anywhere. So do set really good objectives for your business and then adjust them regularly. So in terms of choosing your destination, I think a lot of small business struggle with this, but there is a nice acronym of SMART. So your business objectives need to be SMART, and that stands for specific. So you need to have a specific thing that you're trying to achieve. So that might be turnover, profit, that might be customer numbers, bums on seats, whatever it is. It needs to be something that you can measure with a particular number and say whether you've achieved it or not. And to back that up, it has to be measurable. So you can't say, oh, I just want to be really popular on Facebook, because you can't measure that. So you have to have a specific thing that you're trying to achieve. And it has to be achievable. So it's no good saying, I want to be ruler of the world this time in February next year, because that's not going to happen. So what you might be able to do is get 4 more customers. So pick something that's actually achievable that you can do. It has to be relevant as well. So there's no point in saying, I want to be in the Sunday Times, if that doesn't make you a profit. It's completely irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with your business. So make sure it is relevant to your business. And by relevant, I mean customer numbers, I mean profit, turnover, that kind of stuff, not the vague stuff that's kind of vanity. And then it needs to be time bound. So whatever it is you want to achieve, it has to be by a certain time. So generally, most business planning and most marketing planning is 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So what do you want to be doing in a year? What do you want to be doing in 5 years? What do you want to be doing in 15 years? If you don't put those time limits on it, then it's kind of irrelevant, because you can't really achieve it if you don't put a time limit on it, because you can always put it off. So your marketing objectives, they must support the business. This is really important. So you must have smart business objectives. You say, this is what the business wants to achieve. And to do that, this is what the marketing needs to achieve. This is smart digital marketing objectives. So they have to be measurable, time framed, and so on. So I think the easiest way of doing that is to give you an example. So when you set your business objective, normally it's annually, but generally it's much easier for marketing if you break it down. So your objective might be to increase turnover by £120,000 in 12 months. So I'd break that down. I'd say, okay, so we need to win 12 new £10,000 contracts in 12 months. So that's breaking it down into a bite-sized piece. That kind of is making it a bit more achievable then. So then I'd say, okay, so to win 12 new £10,000 contracts in 12 months, based on what we know so far, our strategy might be to win 100 new followers per month on social media, engage with 20 companies per month on LinkedIn, and email all existing customers monthly with a newsletter. So it's quite difficult to know what that strategy is going to be if you don't have some experience already. So that's either experience yourself of doing campaigns in the past, or you go to somebody that has lots of experience working with other companies and they can give you some kind of guidelines. And it'll be very different for different sectors, different companies, different sizes. All of those things change everything. But setting some of those completely measurable goals will help you work out if you've achieved what you want to do. So now you know how much of it, what is it you're actually going to do? What are you actually going to post on social media? That's really quite difficult. What is actually going to engage with your audience? So back in the first half of the presentation, we talked about finding out what motivators are for your audience. So this is the bit that really gets them involved with your company and with your brand. The image I've got there on the left is a great image. This is from a Facebook campaign that Coors Light ran in the US. As they went into lockdown in the United States, Coors said that because it was boring being in lockdown, they would deliver free beer to you. But you had to have your photo taken asking for it and then post it onto their social media. It worked really well. Everyone likes free beer. So they focused actually on delivering it to old ladies, which I think is just amusing. So it was very engaging. And this is a picture of a lady that had her photo taken through the window because she was self-isolating, just saying I needed more beer. She got a case of beer for for joining in, basically. I think she was 94, which is good going considering she's on social media. So humour works really well, and I think that Coors Light one taps into that. Giveaways and promotions, they work really well, and again, that Coors Light one certainly hits on that. Discounts can work depending on your sector and your products and services. Bandwagons is another one. So at the moment, we've got the rainbow for the NHS, and we've got Black Lives Matters. You can jump on that and you can do stuff with that. It works really well. While it's topical, those things can spread really, really quickly. And I'll give you a couple of examples in a minute. Anything that's on trend, so anything that's newsworthy. And when I say newsworthy, I don't mean panorama. It can be social media, it can be celebrity, whatever floats your boat, really. As long as it's appropriate for your brand and for your customers, then it's fine. And the last one is a more serious one, which is thought leadership. So if you're a business consultant, maybe you don't want to be doing humour. Maybe you want to be telling people how intelligent you are, how much you know. Whatever it is, try to find the bit that works for you and then stick to it. Don't chop and change between them, though. Consistency is really important. And lastly, influencers. So influencers are people on social media who have really large followings. And it gets to the stage where they basically do product placement or endorsements for companies. So this is where you can pay for an influencer to say, buy my product. I've got this from this company. It's really good. I really like it. So if you're Nike or if you're Apple, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. If you're a small business, don't be giving people loads of money to promote your goods like that. All they'll do is hold it up and say, oh, I really like this accountancy firm. No one's going to sign up. So as a small business, I would recommend keeping away from influencers. I'm not saying they're bad. They're just not necessarily right for you. They work for big companies, not for small brands. So once you've got an idea of what it is you're going to be talking about, you really need to amplify that message and get the most from it. So there are lots of ways of doing it. but you need to find a strategy for building a story. So what is it you want to be talking about? A lot of advertising is known as wallpaper. So it's there all the time. You see it all the time, but because it's there all the time and you see it all the time, you don't even notice it. Very much like wallpaper. You don't often notice wallpaper, apart from the first time you see it. However, you do need to be consistent for your brand. So you're in a bit of a quandary then. So the thing that works best is to build a story. So rather than just repeating the same message over and over again, you start either to build up a story or a description of who you are or why the customer should be interested in you. And if possible, participation will massively amplify your campaign. So if you can get other people involved, then your campaign will go, I don't like the phrase viral, but it will be shared by people. People talk about it. It'll be much more interesting. So anything that really engages with people where they can contribute and share will give you a lot more coverage than if you're just posting wallpaper. So here's a few examples. So the one on the left there is from Starbucks, and they run a What's Your Name? So in Starbucks, they have notoriously they say what's your name and they write it on the cup and get it wrong. And they jumped on a bandwagon that I mentioned earlier, and they talked about transgender, and they talked about what your name might be if you were transgender and what you might write on your Starbucks cup. So because it was topical and because it was a bandwagon, they got lots of traction on that. Lots of people engaged with it. Lots of people said, actually, yes, my name's Dave, but I want to be called Davina, that kind of stuff. Worked really well. Lots of people got really engaged with that. The one on the right is completely the opposite. Yorkshire Tea. So the Chancellor, this guy here, for anyone that's not familiar with him, for whatever reason, posted a picture of him with Yorkshire Tea in a giant catering-sized pack bag. He posted it on social media, and loads of people jumped onto it and went, bloody Yorkshire Tea paying the Chancellor to promote their product. Well, actually, they didn't. And so they built off the back of that a very topical campaign saying, no, we didn't pay him. He just had the photo taken. It was nothing to do with us. And so they actually then got a lot of good feeling about themselves for denying the fact that it wasn't anything to do with them. It just kind of happened. So that's something that's topical because it was the Chancellor, and the way they reacted to it, the way they denied it, made it really entertaining for people. The next two are quite interesting. So the one on the left is Tesco's. So during the midst of Black Lives Matters, Tesco's geniusly launched plasters in different skin tones. So if like me, you're very, very pasty white, you might not think about this, but plasters don't actually fit on everybody's skin in terms of colour tone. So they offered 3 different skin tones of plaster and jumped on another bandwagon for BLM. Because of that, it got shared by a lot of people that didn't want the traditional coloured plasters. So a lot of people were very positive about this, and so they would share it amongst their friends. So Tesco's, their big corporate company, picked a tiny little movement, acted on it, got out a message very quickly, and got loads of shares. They got, I can't quite recall what that says, is that 124,000 likes? It's amazing, the number of people like that. And then the one on the right here is Britain's Got Talent. So they created a challenge. They created the 10-year challenge, and they posted a picture of a couple of contestants for Britain's Got Talent from 10 years ago and what they look like now. And they said, what do you look like now after 10 years? And loads of people joined in on that. And it's become a bit of a meme, the 10-year, 20-year challenge. But that's basically off the back of a campaign for promoting Britain's Got Talent. So that kind of topical stuff can work really, really well. Having a little challenge or something that people can get involved in can really amplify your campaign massively. So those are all big brands. This is a strategy that I have come up with for a company this year, which is going to launch at the beginning of next year. So this is the opposite to a big glamorous TV production. This is a plant hire company. So they rent out diggers and the like, and they rent them out to building companies. They rent out diggers, bulldozers, cranes, that kind of stuff. And they wanted a social media strategy. So that all sounds quite boring, really. So we went and found out, we had a look at their competitors. They weren't really doing anything interesting. So we went and found out about them. So know yourself, know your enemy. We went to find out about this company. We visited the offices and the rental outlet places. And something was very, very obvious. So there's a load of builders, there's a load of blokes that rent cranes out, and there is a lot of banter. There's a lot of fun. They're coming into the office and into the shops, the rental shops. There's jokes, they're bantering with each other. There's a lot of laughter. It's great fun. We had a brilliant time when we were visiting them. So we said, okay, well, for your social media then, let's not talk about diggers because they're perhaps a little bit boring. Let's focus more on the banter and the fun and having a good time. So we talked to the client about what they liked. And they said there was one thing they particularly liked, which was this Australian comedian. So she recreates models' images, but in her own unglamorous way. So these crack me up, I have to say, they're very funny. And we said, okay, well, maybe we should do something like that then, when we copy what other people are doing. But for comedy, that can be part of the humour of it. So we said, okay, well, how are we going to do that then? And we said, well, why don't we get pictures of the Kardashians and then recreate them, but with the type of builders that you use, that use your products and rent from you. So Kardashian in a stone bath in the desert, a bloke in a digger. It kind of makes sense. It's kind of fun. Oh, sorry. And then we said, okay, so there's loads of images of the Kardashians. So whatever they do, we can recreate it as a builder. It doesn't really matter what they do. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same because that's the humour. It just has to be loosely based on what it is. So that's kind of amusing. But it's quite difficult to get that connection. So then we kind of took a step back and we said, okay, well, how do we link a plant hire firm with the Kardashians? And we went back to the big digger and we said, okay, well, why don't we get your biggest digger, the one that's got the biggest backside? And why don't we call it the Kardashian? We'll have a vinyl made up. We'll stick the vinyl on it here, on the back of it. We'll post it on social media and we'll say, this digger's got the biggest arse of all of our equipment and it's known as the Kardashians. That's your kickoff point. That's your reason for being. And then you quickly go on and you get to get the ball rolling. You're going to use your own staff and maybe you're going to invite a few people to say, a bit like, no, I'm Spartacus, to say, I am Kardashian. And you get them to post a picture of the Kardashians with a matching image of themselves. Once you've got a few of those going, hopefully the ball will get rolling. We'll get loads of them going. Worst case scenario, the Kardashians threaten to sue. Well, that's front page news, so that's worked really well. Alternatively, it works really well. The BBC pick it up and run it on as a national story about how amusing builders are. So either of those really will work really well. Oh, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong buttons. Okay, so I think we've got a few questions, haven't we, Richard?
Yeah, we have. Yeah. So one here. So this is from Anne. How do you decide how many posts and emails you'll need to generate your leads?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah, it really depends on the industry and what your response rate is like. So, the best way of knowing that is through experience. So the more campaigns you run, the better you'll understand what works for you and what volume of marketing you need to do to get the right results. In terms of if you're starting from a blank, I would look at what your competition are doing. So if the competition are posting weekly, that's a good place to start. If they're sending out an email newsletter once a month, then probably start there. Okay. We've also got a question from Kerry. What's a meme?
Me.
Some people say meme, some people say meme.
Okay.
I say meme. I don't know if it's correct or not. A meme is an online phenomenon where people copy something for comedy effect, basically. I think that's probably the easiest way of saying it. So people will take a scene from a film or something, and they'll twist it or make it slightly different to make it humorous, or they'll take an image and add a caption to it to make it funny. So memes are very popular online, and it might be a kitten with a little caption saying, I don't know, I don't really like kittens, but there you go. Yeah, so it's a jokey thing online.
Another one from Kerry, actually. Can LinkedIn work as a route to customers?
Absolutely, yes, it can. LinkedIn can be a great route for customers. LinkedIn is really a business environment. So if you're a business to business business, as opposed to business to consumer business, it can be particularly effective. So if you're offering a service, like I've mentioned many times already this evening, like an accountancy firm, or if you're a software company, or you offer delivery services, that kind of stuff to businesses, then it can be really effective. And I would argue probably the most effective social media platform really for business to business.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, so do you want to go on to your last module?
Yeah, so if we carry on to the next section. So you planned your strategy, you've executed your campaign. The next thing you really need to do is to monitor it, so to work out what works and what doesn't. So you need to be measuring the things that you set as your SMART objectives. So these might be the number of views you've got. It might be the number of followers you've got. It might be the number of likes you've got, the number of clicks. It could be the number of shares that you've had on social media, or it could be, sorry, Richard, the total audience that you've reached, the number of people. It could be anything that you've set. I'd also look at day and day part. So depending on your business, particular days or particular, a day part is a section of the day, so early morning, mid-morning, afternoon, evening. Different day parts will work for different businesses, so you should be monitoring all of those things, and then measure them against your objectives. So that's both your business objectives and your marketing objectives, because the two are linked. So if you've got all the views that you hope to get, but they didn't turn into the profit that you hope for the business, then you need to review your strategy and work out what you need to change. And most importantly, learn from the results. So this then becomes a really important thing. So whatever activity you do is not going to be perfect. There's no right, correct one way to do marketing. So you need to do some, and then you need to do take the learnings from that and implement them back into your campaigns. So this then kind of becomes a circular thing. So you build your strategy, you create the content, you execute it, you post everything, you distribute it everywhere, and then you measure and revise, decide what works, what doesn't work, and then you put that back into your strategy for the next round of campaign. And then it goes round and around and around, and over time you get better and better at it. So, quick summary. So understand your competitors, know what they're doing. That's their websites, their social and email activity. Understand your audience, so who it is you're talking to, who are they, how do they use digital media, what motivates them. Build a strategy to tell a story. Try to get something that has an ongoing story to it. Don't just do individual posts randomly. Execute the campaign, monitor the results, and implement learnings. So that's a very quick summary, but all of that actually is quite time consuming. None of it, I would say, is especially difficult for a small business owner, but it does take time. but it doesn't have to be your time. So I'll hand back now to Richard, who will tell you how he's found a way of freeing up your time and still getting all of this work done. So Richard, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm unmute. It seems every time I'm sorry, I'm forwarding your slide. Every time I unmute, the slide goes forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with every business, when you're running a business and you're trying to grow your business, there's lots of different things that need to be done. You know, there's bookkeeping, there's marketing, there's sales, you've got to deliver your service, your operation, whatever it is you're doing. So there's all these various different things that needs to happen within your business. I mentioned when we first started that when I decided that I wanted to go into property full time and I wanted to really scale up and grow my property business, I knew from my corporate background that if I really wanted to do that, then I couldn't be doing all this stuff myself. I needed to take somebody that could help out with the operational tasks within the business. So I took on a virtual assistant, and that virtual assistant was doing all sorts of things for me: bookkeeping, marketing, growing my social media, dealing with guests, staying in properties, looking for new properties, lots and lots of things that I didn't really have to do myself. And some of the things also, we can't all be good at everything. So there's lots of things that happen within my business that I actually don't understand, I don't get. So you take on specialist people with that specialist knowledge and that expertise to do those things. So that's really what a virtual assistant is. That's somebody that's going to help you out with the things that you either don't want to do or have to do yourself. And that way you can free up your time so that you can focus on the more strategic stuff. So really what we've gone through tonight is giving you the knowledge, the high level information with regards to marketing and how important it is that you know what to consider. But you know, actually using Google Analytics and going into the detail and everything else, you really shouldn't be doing that yourself. You should be using a virtual assistant, and your virtual assistant could be full-time, or they could be a part-time person. In fact, I always recommend you're far better off to have 2 part-time people rather than full-time people. Because when you've got 2 people working within your business, you've got resilience. If somebody is sick or they leave or they're on holiday, then you haven't suddenly been left with no support at all. So when you take on part-time people, you can direct them to do the tasks that they're really good at and not stuff that they're not really good at. And also you've got the resilience as well, because you're splitting the work 2 ways or more. A virtual assistant will also generally work from home. So they could be UK based, or it could be that they're based overseas. So Varvarbum, we recruit virtual assistants from the Philippines, and we recruit these VAs. We obviously go through a very thorough screening process to make sure that only the really good people actually get through. So we have a very strict screening. But then the next thing we do, before we actually put them with a client, they also go through a lot of training as well. So we train them in looking for property deals. We train them in property management. We train them in marketing. We train them in all sorts of things to give them the skills. We also train them in not just using software and processes, but we also give them personal development training as well. So we will train them in how to be really good at what they do, how to exceed expectations and make themselves indispensable. So an awful lot of training. We probably get anywhere sort of around about 200 to 250 applications a month, people that actually want to come and work for us. And out of those, I would think we're probably getting around about between 10 to 15 that actually make it through the whole screening and the training process. So we end up with really, really good quality people. The other thing is, when I first started this, a lot of people said to me, you know, they tried working with a virtual assistant, they tried working with a remote team, but it hadn't really worked for them. And that's because when you're working with people that are working remotely, if you've got a virtual assistant, you've got to be able to work virtually. You've got to understand that working with a remote team is very different to working with somebody that's sat in the same office as you. And there are ways to do things, and there's ways to make it work. And if you don't do that, it's going to go horribly wrong. Also, you've got to, when you're working with people in a different country, you've got to understand their culture, and they've got to understand our culture as well. So that's again part of the training we give the virtual assistants, is to understand our culture and what's good for us and what's not good for us. And every single new client that comes on board, we mentor our clients and show them about systems, about process, how to delegate, how to be a good team leader, not a manager. You know, you're not when you're building a team and you're working with a team, you're not a manager or a boss. You are the team leader. You are there to inspire, to motivate, to support your team, and to give them the freedom to allow them to get on and do their job as best as they can. So, well, all of this training, all of this mentorship we provide to VAs, and we provide to our clients as well. So when you come on board with VARBARBOOM, and we call our clients Voomers, you become a Voomer when you come on board, and you get quite a few things. So you're going to get, first of all, access to a video vault where we've got lots of tutorials, lots of videos, all about software, what software to be using in your business, about CRM systems, password security, lots and lots of different things that we've trained the VAs in how to use, and we show you how to use it. But don't worry if you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, I'm not particularly technical, I'm not, you know, I'm a bit PC illiterate. Don't worry too much, because as we're saying with the marketing, you have to understand what needs to be done, but you don't actually have to do it yourself. So so that's what your VA is going to be doing. So it doesn't matter if you're not particularly into software and this sort of thing, but you get access to that video vault with all the information that you need on software, on process, on working with the VA, etc. You get one-to-one mentoring with me. So I mentor you on some of the things I've just spoken about the cultural differences, about leadership. Mentoring, we actually call it focus, freedom, leadership, because it's about focusing your time on the right things so that you can free up your time and you can be a great leader for your team. You can inspire your team, motivate your team, and support your team. So you get that mentoring as well. You get access to exclusive webinars that we do. So these are just for Voomers, where we're giving you skills, training you on various different things about being a great leader, about software, about systems, about marketing, about deal sourcing, all various different things, different subjects, different topics. And of course, you get your own dedicated virtual assistant. So we will recruit for you a virtual assistant that is trained in doing all this stuff. You get access to an IT support desk. So if there is anything technical that you're having a problem with, you just book a call with the support desk and then they will help you out. You obviously get support from myself and my team as well. You get access to a private Facebook group, which is just for clients. So we've got a few different Facebook groups, but we encourage a community type approach. So if you've got questions, you can put them into the Facebook group. Other people can answer them. It's about sharing knowledge and sharing experiences. And of course, you get ongoing support for both you and your virtual assistant. So if you've got any problems, any questions, you can book a call with me or my team and we deal with those. And if you ask your VA to do something and they don't know how to do it, then rather than you having to work it out and show them, they'll just say, sorry, not done that before, come back to us, we'll train them, we'll point them in the right direction, give them the support that they need. So, you know, VARBARBOOM is not a VA recruitment business. It is a business that shows you how to systemize your business, teach you software, teach your process, and provide you with a trained virtual assistant that can use the software and run the process. So we are very, very different. What do you get with VAVAVUM? So with VAVAVUM, you get all of those things, and it is a one-off joining price of £495. If you want to sign up to VAVAVUM, you can scan that code there, and you can sign up online. Or if you want to book a call, I'm going to give you another code in a minute. If you want to book a call with me to discuss in more detail, then I'm going to give you that code as well to look at in a second. Now I want to talk to you about Virtual Digital Marketing Masterclass. Okay, so this is something that we're just about to launch. It is goes into a lot more detail of what we're talking about tonight. It is 12 modules spread over 6 webinars over 6 weeks. The first webinar is on Thursday, the 8th of October. That's Thursday next week. All the webinars are all recorded. So if you can't make one of the webinars, it doesn't matter. They get recorded. They're put into Kajabi. You've then got access to them to play back or to watch. They're there for life. You'll get access to another private Facebook group, which is just for people that are doing the masterclass, again, to ask questions, to share information, etc. There's also an additional bonus webinar, which I'm going to be running on the 7th, on Wednesday next week. So in addition to the 6 about marketing, a bonus webinar where I'm going to be talking about systemizing your business and scaling up your business. So what do we cover in the masterclass? So first of all, what is digital marketing? Knowing your market, branding, keeping your message simple, building the perfect website and search engine optimization, getting leads and sales online, planning an integrated digital strategy, where and when to run campaigns, choosing the right social media channels, content marketing, affiliate marketing, why email marketing is still so important, how to use Google Ads, paid for advertising on LinkedIn and Facebook, measuring your results, increasing the efficiency of your campaigns. So an awful lot of content that we're going to be running through those modules. When you sign up to a Virtual Digital Marketing Masterclass, it comes with a 14-day money-back guarantee. So if you sign up tonight, then, well, in the next few days, then you're actually going to get the first free webinar free. So you can listen to that webinar. And if you think it's not for you, you don't like it, then that's fine. You can cancel and you'll get 100% refund. We only have 100 spots available, okay, because it's live webinars and we want to be able to handle all the Q&As as they come in. We're limiting it to 100 spots. So there's no risk to your investment, okay? It's really try before you buy. You can try that first module. If you don't like it, then that's fine. Oh, I think I've done this slide once already, so let's just skip through that. Ah, right, maybe I haven't. So 6 weeks. The price of the webinar is £495, and that's fully inclusive. There's no VAT on top of that. So you can sign up to the webinar using this link here. So that's vavavum.solutions/VDM-masterclass.
Can I say, Richard, that's for the entire course. That's not just for one webinar.
Yeah, that's for the, sorry, that is for the masterclass. That's right.
Yeah.
So you can sign up using that code, but I've got a gift for you tonight. Okay. If you do sign up tonight to the masterclass, then I'm going to give you VAVAVUM's subscription, which is also worth £495 free. But you must sign up to that tonight. So don't forget, 14-day money-back guarantee. So there's no risk. Okay, you can sign up tonight. Then you're on. You've got your place. You've got your VAVAVUM subscription. If you decide in a few days' time, or even after you listen to the first webinar, that you've changed your mind, then no questions asked. We'll give you your money back. So just finally, are there any other further questions on anything that either I've talked about this evening rather, or Ben? Just type into the Q&A box. Oh, yes. Okay. So Anne, a good question. What are the minimum hours you can get a virtual assistant to work for? So yeah, there are costs associated with, obviously we have overheads and everything. So you can't take a virtual assistant on and just give them 2 hours work a month, because that's just not going to work. And also you haven't really helped yourself. You haven't learned the art of delegation there. And I help you with that one. So no, we do have a minimum usage of 25 hours in a month. So all the pricing structure and everything is all on the website. So if you go to www.vavavoom.solutions, you'll see on the pricing, you'll see what all the rates are and everything on there. But it's a minimum usage of 25 hours a month. Got another one here from James. Would the VAs be able to put digital marketing plans together as well as post on social media? Yeah, absolutely they can. In fact, social media in the Philippines, they use it an awful lot more than we do in the UK. They're on their social media all the time. So all of the people that come to us, they're already used to social media and using Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all of those sort of things. Yeah, we're training VAs at the moment in the more detailed stuff, in things like Google Analytics and all of these tools on how to actually use these tools. So the VAs that obviously, because we're running this masterclass, we know that we're going to get an influx of people that are going to want to have VAs that can do the marketing piece. So a lot of the VAs that we're recruiting have got that background and experience, but we're also doing training for the virtual assistants as well at the moment. Okay, just any other questions at all before we finish off? No? Okay, I think we're all good. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. I know it's a late one, this webinar, so I really do appreciate you joining. Oh, and I did say, sorry, the code for, there we are. Mandy, you wanted to book an appointment with me, so here we are. That QR code there, that will give you access to my online calendar. You can book a 45-minute free Zoom call with me, and I'm happy to help out. If anybody else would like to book a call on anything at all that we've discussed tonight, then please do the same. Thank you very much again for joining us.
Thank you all. I hope it was useful. Hope to see you next time as well.
Bye-bye.